I want a good boys, Bill, Chris, on the internet one day. Chris said to Neil, let's make a podcast, boy. Come on now, what do you think? Well, what will this podcast be about? Said Neil with a tear in his eye. We got stories that people tell each other from Louisiana Pie to the city of Mumbai. Oh, you mean urban legends. And the podcast was Urban Legends with Neil and Chris. You take care, y'all. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Urban Legends, the internet podcast where you listen to urban legends and decide whether or not it was worth your time. I am the man with the world record for most barrels balanced on my head, Chris Flynn. And with me is a very special guest. It's Robbie Williams' new best friend. It's Mr.
Neil Herbert.
Hi, Neil. How are you doing?
Not great. A lot of Friday night phone calls from Robbie.
Oh, dear. It's about UFOs again.
Yeah, it's UFOs or he's feeling lonely.
How did you meet? Was it a Port Vale football match, or did he just pull over and accost you in the street?
No, it was online actually. I was
okay.
As you know, Chris,
I'm one of the chants.
I'm one of the no, it wasn't one of the chants. How dare you? I'm a prominent member of the Bigfoot community.
Yes, you are.
And I was lambasting some idiot for.
They call you Mr. Bigfoot, don't you? Bigfoot.
The biggest foot, I believe.
Biggest foot.
Yeah, well, that's the one I've been trying to spread around. That's my username.
General Footsies.
Yeah. Lo and behold, who should Yeti 2357 be? But
was it?
Yeah, but yeah. So we've been
were people dogpiling in on him for calling himself Yeti something on a Bigfoot forum, and you kind of had to protect him very much like in the film The Bodyguard, but in a digital sense.
Yeah, I mean, and he did sing a beautiful song like Whitney Houston.
I will always love you.
The bullets were flying. Yeah,
as the internet bullets are flying.
Yes,
the Pepe
the
flames,
the memes, the tweets.
All right. So how did it go from
Ticks
that
and the tops
to so?
It was like, well, do you want to meet up? I had no idea. So it's like,
all right,
let's go for a pint near wherever Port Vale is.
Like it's sensible to do with anyone on the internet. Meet him in real life. No questions asked.
No questions asked. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be fine. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I would say less could go wrong for you or I than maybe people who were younger or of a different gender or that were attractive. Yeah,
well, all of the above. I mean, very much. Yeah, did putting that to myself. So yeah, probably don't. I mean, if anyone listening to this is of an age where that's going to be a consideration, but if you do happen to be kind of like a bit on the younger side, then don't be meeting up with
Robbie
strangers
Williams
on the internet, or Robbie Williams probably just generally.
So
unless you're a fan, in which case fine.
Yeah, probably even more so. Don't.
Yeah. Maybe take people with you and.
Security detail. So what did you do? Like you just met him for a pint in Port Vale?
Yeah, well, no, he insisted on going to the local Wimpy's. Apparently, that's the best of the burger chains in his opinion.
So he then came out the next day in all the tabloids saying that this was this is my new best friend Neil. How did you react to that? Because I know you're a very private man.
Well, no, it was very
not on purpose, just because no one's interested in what you do.
We got papped, and I was very surprised to end up in the pages of the Sun, which is a bit like that. The pages with Jerry Halliwell. He decided to get naked for some reason.
And you were wearing a kilt, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I was just crossing my legs like a basic instinct, like anyone would. And
right. So has it been left?
Didn't particularly appreciate.
Has it been left? Did he kind of apologise and say, "I hope my waning star isn't going to affect our
I feel if anything, he's kind of like using the whole thing to try and get himself back in the papers. And
do you reckon that's what it was? He's trying to he's heard about the podcast and he's trying to ride your coattails back to the top.
And now I think he's just sort of like he's going to try and
he tried to
brush me off.
Like so many an aging star, he tried to hook himself to a young up and comer like yourself.
Young I'm becoming a starlet.
Starlet coming through the ranks.
So that's definitely, within a year or two, I'll be making the big monies.
Well, exactly.
So podcast, that's how everyone becomes a billionaire these days, isn't it, Chris?
I believe so.
Isn't that how Donald Trump made his fortune?
Yep, podcasting.
And Richard Branson, of course, he did a
podcast
out of a phone box in the 70s. That's how he first made his money.
He was living in
a... You could ring up and then he'd do like a radio show for you.
Yeah, living in a squat, even though his parents were really rich.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I mean bootstraps.
That he pulled himself up by, as anyone could if they had the application and sheer will.
And just a little bit of seed money.
The reason you don't like objectivism, Chris, is just because you just don't have the will to succeed.
No, I don't. What's that book where you manifest stuff?
I don't know what the book is, but there's a theory that Noel Edmonds believes in this, that if you believe in stuff strongly enough, the universe will get something. Yeah,
it's called The Secret. That's the name of the book.
Oh, I don't know.
The Secret. That's actually what I use.
The secret is this is absolute bullshit.
The secret is I've written this for money.
Here's some advice that may be a decent one. So anyone who wants to sort of like buy a self-help book or somebody writing a book like How to Become a Millionaire, the step 2 of this is sell a book on how to become a millionaire. It's a pyramid selling scam, effectively, that you just got taken in on. Because if they're that rich, why are they writing books about it?
Well, as you know, I basically take most of my lessons from Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, which was the 50 Cent self-help book, which, got me into podding, got me my beautiful one-bedroom flat, which I rent.
Yep. Collection of headscarves.
I live above ground now, Neil, not underground. Do you know why? Because I've been hustling smarter and harder. So that's good, isn't it?
That is some good hustle.
Because
really, you should be living in a sewer like a chud. That's your natural level.
You should be a mole person.
Absolutely. And look at you now with a record-breaking amount of barrels on your head and sunlight.
Most of the rickets have gone. Now that there's something, not all. It takes a while. My legs are still a bit bendy.
Yeah. Well, it's never going away, is it? I was going to have a look over the walk of a man who's been in the saddle a bit too long, but
the hustling saddle. That's right. The street saddle. Those straddling the sewers, in the sewers, staring up at the stars, thinking one day I'll own them. All of the stars, I'll own them. A healthy approach, I feel.
Yes.
I mean, well, that's how I got that. After I I couldn't balance barrels on my head anymore. I kind of, I lost my fame. I lost everything. I lost my wife. She took the kids. The kids don't want to see me.
No, rightly so.
My neck got less thick. So, women weren't attracted to me anymore. Yep. My spine started to decompress, so I didn't look so stocky. It's a nightmare, but the book really got me through it. So,
hey, at least now we call you the human jellyfish.
You do call me the human jellyfish, and I appreciate that. I consider it's a friendly ribbing, but the look in your eyes tells me otherwise.
Horses for courses.
So, Neil, I know for a long time you've been wondering I told you that I've got that Latin writing tattooed across my chest.
Yes.
And I told you it's my family motto.
Yeah, what is it again?
So it's Semel in Anno, Fabulam, Narare de Dol, Exspirativ.
So Anno means That's about as much of that as I could pass.
So I think this is my family motto, and what it is once a year tell a tale of a haunted doll.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been
on Google Translate recently, Chris?
Absolutely not. No, it's my family motto. And
luckily, this is a podcast where nobody who can conjugate a Latin verb is going to have any business listening, so that's fine.
So so that my family have always believed in it all the way, back in Ireland. That was what they always said. It was actually what gave me the idea to do this podcast in the first place. So today last year we did Robert the Doll, of course.
And of course, in the movie, it was an Irish lady who was owning him on the suitcase who handed him over to the new people.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's good, isn't it?
It is good.
To a cottage in Wales for some reason.
For budgetary reasons.
Well, yeah.
So we're going to do this year's 2022's Haunted Doll story. No.
Who's the hot new doll in Hauntings this year? Because I mean, Robert the Dolls, he's a tough one to follow.
I'm not saying it's going to be as good.
I'm
not saying it's going to be as good. I feel we peaked in early door series 1.
Which country is this particular doll from? Is it another American haunting?
It's from Canada.
Oh, okay. Instantly less impressed. Sorry, Canadian chums.
Well,
no
it's
disrespect.
I've been looking for sort of. This isn't why I'm doing this, but I was looking for some urban legends and myths from Canada, and what they tend to be is American-style UFO ones, or they've got a lot of stuff about lake monsters.
Okay, well, lots of big lakes, I guess.
They've got a very lakey place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of lake monsters, really.
They must have their own Bigfoot or something as well.
I think it's just Sasquatch again, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so we're going to look, like I've written those down to looking in the future. So don't worry, we'll be looking at lake monsters.
Oh, yes. We'll leave no stone unturned. Great wilderness.
You looked at any lake monsters yet? I don't think so.
Oh, I thought we did one. I can't remember what it was called. It clearly didn't stick in the memory. I thought we'd done like a minor essay because there's loads of them out.
No, I don't think we've ever actually recorded it.
Maybe not. Might have just been like a potential future one that I'd done.
But anyway, this is from HuffPost because I write about anything.
Fair enough.
And it's Canada is home to one of the world's most famous haunted dolls. So this is the story, there's not much to it, of Mandy, the haunted doll.
Nice.
I believe that the song Mandy was actually about this doll.
It was about this haunted doll.
Yeah.
Who's that boy?
That's what I was trying to think. The Copacabana and that.
Oh, it's not Neil Diamond, is it?
No.
Barry Manilow?
Yes. So, Mandy the Haunted Doll once appeared on the Montel Williams Show. And this is by Major Kappa. And it's from 2018.
I will just say one thing before you start, Chris.
Oh, you go for it.
A lot of these dolls have quite.
Please say as much as you can.
Now, in no way am I trying to spin out time. We get to at least 40 minutes, but in no way. These dolls tend to have quite innocuous names, don't they?
Yeah, but they're named by people, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know why I'm expecting to have spooky names. Robert, Annabelle, Mandy, even Chucky. It's kind of a bit more boisterous.
I've put a link there to you in the chat so you can have a quick look at the haunted doll.
I mean,
see its face.
The thing is, they always look really innocuous as well.
This one looks slightly less innocuous because of.
Okay, that's good because normally they look really kind of cute when you see them, or just like probably a bit old-fashioned or whatever. But then you see the film versions, and they always look genuinely like, why would any child play with this? It's ridiculous.
There's one.
I don't know why they do that.
I was looking at haunted dolls things, and there's one called the Haunted Gang, and there's 8 haunted dolls, but there's not a lot about them apart from they're haunted. There's not much of a story there, which is a shame because that would be quite good.
Well, they should combine like the movie Puppet Master, especially if there's like a Nazi involved in the creation.
Avengers Endgame. But with haunted dolls instead of
haunted dolls, yeah.
And instead of Thanos, you've got the Bigfoot.
Yes, they just keep trailing him.
There are a lot. So yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? There's like an eBay subculture where you can make quite a lot of money by grifting people and saying that you've got a haunted doll and selling it to them.
It's definitely or you can get people to come and visit your museum, or whatever.
No, there's people actually kind of sell them online and go, "Oh, this doll's really haunted."
Oh, really? And then we all know it's kind of, you put it in the other chat, I think. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, okay. I've just got a close-up of an eye at the moment. That is quite...
if you scroll down.
I mean, they've dressed it kind of weird, and it's got a little rat or something.
It's a lamb, isn't it?
A lamb, oh, yeah, okay. But, yeah, it's kind of quite
it's
smashed up.
It's aging and that. So... There are a lot of weird eBay subcultures, but by far one of the most fascinating is the haunted doll industry. Everyday buyers and sellers online offer.
Whoa, hang on a second there, Chris. One of the most fascinating eBay subcultures. That's a claim.
Well, I don't know. I don't really go on eBay much. Do you?
No, I haven't been on there for years. I do have an eBay account, but
yeah, I might start grifting on there now that capitalism's falling apart.
Well, it used to be like you could sell just so much shite on there, but the problem is now you used to get good bargains, or at least reasonable bargains, but fucking people would just pay up to like RRP for second-hand stuff.
Yeah. Well, electronics, because of the issues around.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about short stuff. Like generally for me, it'll be like a guitar pedal or sort of something like that. But I'd rather go on Reverb these days. Get much more meaningful. And I just feel like there's too many suckers out there who'll pay above well, not RRP, but they'll pay like near to what you would buy it new for. Like if you know any clue like where to look, it's not that hard.
Yeah, but that's true of anything, isn't it?
But fair enough, sellers want to get the most they can out of it, so yeah.
So everyday buyers and sellers online offer proof of hauntings, heartfelt accounts of otherworldly activities, and sincere hope to pay for a paranormal experience via online auction. Haunted dolls may have come more into focus in 2014 with the horror movie Annabelle, about the supposedly real-life story of a doll who was possessed by a demonic spirit. The movie was a spin-off of the previous year's The Conjuring. Oh, it's those guys again.
Yeah, it's that. They've
Warrens.
Just
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they definitely investigated Annabelle. Supposedly real life story. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like Amityville. A brief intro featuring the doll as a way to set up the movie's Demon Hunter characters was scary enough to warrant its own feature, and the freaky doll story was successful enough that it spawned a sequel, Annabelle: Creation.
And the production values were low enough that we were able to make a profit off of the. It was successful. Just it's just I assume it's just somewhere where like teenagers go to make out or whatever. It's I can't imagine anyone buying thinking, oh, there's
a market for any kind of film, really. Like it's just getting the budget in right, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Yeah, if you can get the. Well, I think this is the thing as well. It's like if your most expensive prop is a little doll puppet
with a bit of string on it.
Yeah.
Or unless they're doing something like in the film The Producers, trying to make something so
equally
bad.
Possible. Well, it's like because I actually kind of quite liked the Blair Witch Project. I thought it was quite clever, but I mean, Paranormal Activity, fucking hell, what a pile of old shite. But it was clever. They made an absolute fortune off of that.
Neil, but did you know that Canada is home to one of the world's other most famous haunted dolls? Mandy has lived in the Quesnel Museum, a small spot in the town of Quesnel, British Columbia, since 1991.
I did not know that, Chris, no, and I will shortly forget it after this conversation, I suspect.
She's quite popular, Elizabeth Hunter, the museum and heritage manager for the city of Quesnel, told HuffPost Canada in a phone interview. I think a portion of our visitors come specifically to see her. So
I'm going to have a look. So this is in a museum. So the Quesnel Museum. So I've got to look this up. So we've got what other kind of treasures do they have?
I know.
So it immediately looks like a mid-range carpet sales facility. It's kind of out the middle of
come for the dolls, stay for the bargains.
Yeah, it's kind of like got those big windows, and so there's a museum and visitor centre. Let's have a look. Oh, they've got rare Chinese artefacts.
Well, there you go.
Used during the gold rush. What?
Well, there was a lot of Chinese people.
Well, no, but they wouldn't. Why would they have bought artefacts? I mean,
well, because it was a pretty tumultuous time in China. So when people were leaving, they would have taken their valuables with them.
Bought during the gold or carried it anyway. Yeah, fair enough. Just the word used threw me a little bit, but fair enough.
Yeah.
To ephemera that will evoke childhood memories. So they've just got a load of like Transformers or something, probably.
Playmobil, Lego, because it's Lego, not Legos. So the museum has had visitors from all over the world, she said, including groups of psychics and once even a film crew from Japan. Mandy was discovered in 1991 by a young woman in the area, Hunter said. The woman had recently had a baby and found the doll while cleaning out her grandmother's house. According to the museum's website, while the doll was in the woman's house, she would frequently wake up in the middle of the night and hear a baby crying from the basement. Well, she should have kept her baby in the basement then. She decided that she didn't want her young daughter playing with this cracked and scary-looking doll, as Hunter put it, so she donated the doll to the museum. But it did keep one connection with the woman's family. It took on her daughter's name, Marianda, or Mandy for short.
I mean, so she was discovered by a young woman in the area who'd recently had a baby, and you thought, oh, here's a lovely piece of shit. I'll get that for my kid to play with. And it's only when it starts giving you a haunting, which is what you should expect looking at this thing, that you suddenly decide, oh, you know, I thought it would be fine for my kid to play with this scabby, rat-eaten kind of doll. But then when it started bleeding
it's
tears...
It's weird, though. Like my cousin Katie, who you know, she when she was young, she got a doll from a car boot because she just really wanted it, right?
Yeah.
And it had one of its eyes kind of put in, so it had like a really weird weird. So the doll was called Zombina because of the eyes. But she used to really like it. So kids are weird, aren't they?
No, I get like a kid forming an attachment to something or being like, oh, I want that. It's like, no, you don't. It's kind of like,
don't tell kids what to want.
No, I'm saying if the kid done it, I'm saying the mother decided to have it for the kid. Do you know, if the kid likes it, then I get that, like a kid forming an attachment to something that maybe looks.
Yeah, if a kid picks it out, but rather than
I want that. It's well, don't you want a new one? It's like no, I like that. That I get. Do you know what I mean? But then her thing, anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter to say it's a fucking haunted doll story.
Well, it does quite matter. I'm just trying to get where your head's at, man.
But yeah, because the thing is as well, it just does look really like. Again, it's like it was just one eye. It's like. Yeah, it's got like flaps of its skin missing and just all over its face.
Yeah, I mean,
the lamb's well preserved.
Yeah, the lamb's. I assume the lamb must be.
I mean, almost like somebody bought a doll and just decided to like smash it up a bit to give credence to a lying story about hauntings.
So apparently, the doll was made in Germany between 1990 and 1920.
They so often are, aren't they?
Well, same as Robbie.
Doll. Yeah. Teddy bears and haunted dolls, they seem to be.
So, so when the owner went to look, there would be no child. Okay, so I'm jumping onto the ghosthuntuk.com here. So
that's fine. I just like the quote from one of the museum staff. Children frequently visit the museum on school trips, Hunter said. The kids all know about, and we often have terrified young children. That's always a good aim, isn't it, for your museum?
It's always a good aim for your museum, yeah. I mean, what you want to do is scare people off from museums because they're doing so well financially. So here's another sort of an embellishment, I would say, of the origin story. So the owner said that she would hear the sound of a little girl crying coming from the basement most nights. And when she went to look, there would be no child, just an open window and Mandy staring right at her. So it did not take long for Mandy to be donated to the museum, where she did stop crying. But after a while, strange things started happening to the staff. Lunches began disappearing from the fridges. Good grift. That's the haunted doll.
Yeah.
And they were found somewhere else. Artifacts museum would vanish from the display cabinets and end up in a different one beneath the previously locked glass.
Oh, Mandy's a little tinker, isn't she?
Yeah, and perhaps the most disturbing of all was the footsteps. Staff would only hear these ghostly footsteps when they were alone. They would begin slow in distance, but they would speed up and sound like they were coming towards you. The faster I ran, the faster she would chase me, said an unnamed member of staff, possibly. Or maybe it's just made up.
Would you not like just get an exorcism at this point? So this is the paradox of the haunted doll in the museum, isn't it? Because you're not going to put it in the museum if it's not haunted.
It's bringing in the punters, isn't it?
Exactly. So you're not just going to have some crappy old doll because nobody wants that. But if so you got to put up with this. It's the people on minimum wage having to deal with this that I feel sorry for, Chris. 0 hours contracts, minimum wage, and then they've got to put up with hauntings as well.
So Mandy sits in her own locked glass case with a little stuffed lamb on her lap. There are lots of stories of the lamb somehow turning up on the floor outside the case. Hunter said, although she had never seen that happen, there's also frequent.
There's lots of stories about it.
Lots of stories, so many. Real water cooler talk. There were also frequent reports of the doll's eyes following visitors around the room, Hunter added, but she doesn't buy it. She attributes the effects to Mandy's glass eyes. I mean, you've often said that about me because I've got 2 glass eyes, as we know, and I tend to sort of recognise people through sonar. But you've said that my eyes
very much like Daredevil, aren't you?
Very much like Daredevil, yeah. But
without all the crime fighting and heroics.
Yeah, and without the law degree or sort of care for a particular area.
Yeah,
very much not a community-focused person. So once a young girl fainted in front of Mandy's case, she was kept overnight at the emergency room before being let out. Seems a bit too much. She was sure it was a case of the kid freaking herself out. I think it was an extreme drop in blood pressure, Hunter said.
Mm.
So, Neil, there was one story, though, that Hunter can't explain away.
Well, Hunter sounds a bit sceptical to me. So if Hunter doesn't be able to explain this one, I can't think what kind of terrifying phenomena must have been witnessed.
So she had heard reports of one of the curatorial assistants who worked at the museum long before her, and when Mandy had first arrived. One of their common processes involves photographing the museum's archive, and when this assistant tried to take the photo of Mandy, there was reportedly a disturbance of something falling off a shelf. The assistant apparently fled in fear. Fucking hell. There's not a lot of highly strung people working in a museum game, isn't there?
Well, I mean, this is the way it goes, isn't it?
And when she came back, she could tell something sinister had happened. Things were upside down, everything in disarray, even though no one else was in the room. Ooh.
And everything was covered in blood, and it was haunted.
There was a big flaming vortex in the corner.
I mean, those kind of like horror movies where you go through a portal into hell would be a lot less interesting. It was just like, a few things fell off some shelves.
So Hunter assumed this story had been exaggerated until the former assistant came back to visit the museum last year. I thought it was something they'd done to try and hype up the story of the haunted doll, she said. But when she came back, she was genuinely scared. She would not go near where the doll was.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. So Mandy reached her peak of popularity in the late 1990s when the doll, the former curator, and the donor were invited to appear on the Montel Williams show. The psychic, Sylvia Brown, read Mandy's energy, Hunter said, and apparently determined that the doll had originally belonged to twins with polio.
Oh, very spooky. like the little ones out of The Shining. I don't know if they're polio or not. Sylvia Brown. Oh, I imagine I'm just going to do a quick Google of Sylvia Brown, see what.
Yeah, so according to Sylvia Brown, the mother's grief implanted into the doll after the twins had died. None of the museum staff are true believers, Hunter said, but we try and be open-minded. A lot of people...
Oh, sorry, go on, mate.
A lot of people have strong reactions to her, she added. It's been about 10 years since there are any significant disturbances attributed to Mandy, but you never know what might happen. When things go wrong at the museum, we'll say, oh, that's maybe Mandy.
Oh, I bet that's some hilarious sort of coffee talk. It's like, oh, did you slip over? I bet that'll be Mandy.
Oh, I've got an STD.
Oh, I bet that'll be
Mandy.
Oh, I've been embezzling funds for the last 5 years. Oh, that's probably Mandy. Oh. Well, we'll just say about...
I'm being pushed out the back door for some incidents recently with a local tour group. That'll be Mandy.
So celebrity psychic. So actually, if you click on the Sylvia Brown link at HuffPro, it just it just links to Sylvia Brown, dead psychic's legacy riddled with failed predictions, fraud. So yeah, maybe not the most believable of.
But she was on Montel Williams. What are you talking about?
Yeah, she's on Montel Williams. I mean, she's got to be on the up and up. So I imagine, if Montel found out that she was a fraud, he'd be just.
He probably killed her.
That could be.
I'm going to say he definitely did. I'm putting that out there now.
Fair enough. Shocking revelations. And then that's
Montel Williams in vendetta killing of
a fake psychic who lied about Dole.
Who lies about Dole and polio twins. Felt he was made a fool of. So I'm going to do a little bit more here from theparanormalguides.com.
I'm just going to get my head around that. So what she said is that it belonged to twins with polio, and the mother's grief implanted into the doll. So they die of polio, and then the mother's grief haunts the doll.
Best way of getting over grief: you implant it into an animal object. That's what I do.
Yeah, and then it will sort of disseminate that grief by knocking over books and scaring museum workers.
Yeah, or just physically expel the grief slowly over time.
Yeah,
it's simple. It's like a battery charged down. So, let's have a look through this. So, a strange doll. The curator of the Queensland District Museum, British Columbia, Canada, was sitting at a desk when an antique doll was plonked down in front of her. Being donated to the museum was a 90-plus-year-old doll. The donor stating that it was getting old, fragile, and she did not want her young daughter playing with it and further damaging it. The doll named Mandy had belonged to the woman's grandmother, but rather than being sadly parted with it, the woman, with what should have been a treasured possession, the woman seemed anxious to get rid of it. The curator took hold of the doll and immediately felt uneasy. She talked up the feeling to the fact the doll had an incredibly creepy look to it. So just so you know what it looks like, it's got like loads of cracks around its face.
Yeah.
Loads of cracks. So its clothing was quite old and faded. The soft stuff parts of its body were ripped in places, but most creepy of all was a doll's face. It was realistically painted and had glass eyes, but the forehead over the doll's right eye was cracked, causing the eye to protrude slightly, like it was intensely peering at onlookers. So she was taken into the museum's workroom to undergo some maintenance before she could be placed on display. The doll was enclosed in a plastic bag to test whether bugs had infested it. Any bugs, insects leaving the doll would be caught by the bag, thus letting the museum staff know of infestation. That's good, isn't it, Neil? However, the realistic-looking scarred doll being placed in a plastic bag added to the uneasiness the museum staff felt when they looked at it. Those working in the same room as the doll swore they heard the bag rustle as if the doll had moved inside. And it was not insects causing the movement either. The doll would change positions. Ooh.
It is scary. I was just looking up TripAdvisor reviews, and none of them actually mentioned. So I think this museum is a bit on the up and up. It's gotten good reviews, and none of them mentioned the haunted doll.
Certainly no Robert the Doll situation.
No.
So after the initial analysis of the doll was complete, it was time to photograph it. A process all artefacts at the museum undergo for their record books. Mandy was photographed, then left in the lab overnight. The next morning, when staff re-emerged in the lab, they found things had been messed up overnight. Smaller objects had been thrown around the room.
That would be Mandy.
Larger, heavier objects had just been pushed over on the spot. So that's slightly in contradiction to it being one person going in and seeing it.
Although that maybe just one person was terrified. Maybe everyone else was like, well, it's clearly a haunted doll.
Nonplussed.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, good. Oh, well, that's handy. You know,
this is my first rodeo.
Yeah, this is haunted doll. That should actually increase visitors by 1.5%. So it's pretty good.
It's worth picking up a few books from time to time.
Picking up a few pens. Look,
a few glasses get broken.
This doll's paying your wages.
Cost to benefit on the business case. It all works out. Yeah.
So this would happen any time Mandy was left in a room by herself overnight. The curator likened the mess to what would happen if a child had thrown a tantrum in the room. Oh, wow!
Or a wacky person working at the museum with a hilarious sense of humour decided to...
Yeah, just someone on minimum wage, or as part-timer on a Saturday.
That would be Mandy. I got fired for smoking a joint in the parking lot. That'll be Mandy.
So when Mandy was finally placed on display within the museum itself, she was one of the first things visitors would see as they passed the entryway. They would mostly feel uneasy when looking at the doll. There seemed to be something incredibly wrong with it. It's just a bit smashed up.
It's very judgmental about this thing.
Yeah. You know,
it's all about looks.
It's on unique. It's the unique parts of us that are the most beautiful. At times, photographs taken of the doll would not turn out. They would be blurred or have strange light anomalies in front of them, very Robert-esque. It got to the point that the uneasiness felt by the visitors had staff placing Mandy further back in the museum in her own glass display case. Eventually, a psychic inquired as to whether they could hold the doll to see what they could pick up on. Upon reading the doll, the psychic felt that it had suffered much abuse. It's taken a turn. But it was not the doll who was suffering, but rather the spirit that inhabits it.
Well, it's probably the spirit of a mother who had 2 kids with polio who died, Joe, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. What developed from this is an origin story as to the spirit inhabiting the doll. This cannot be proved, Neil. I should warn you.
Okay, well, I mean, parapsychology is still it's still an evolving science. It's still a young science.
I still think it's
still working our way through the fundamentals.
I still think it's further along than psychiatry. So this cannot be proved and may just be legend / folklore, but it was believed that the doll was found in the cellar of an old farmhouse.
Okay.
Completely contradicting.
No problem so far. I thought it was belonging to somebody, one of their grandmother, and then somewhere else it was found in like a car boot sale or whatever. But okay.
So let's have a listen to the story because it all might tie up. We don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got a keen eye on what's being said here. So a man was walking past the farmhouse when he thought he heard some crying coming from within. The odd thing about this child's cry was that the passers-by knew the farmhouse had been empty, abandoned so that no child should have been present.
Might have gone to play in there though. Told not to. So don't go down the farmhouse, Johnny. Johnny fruit. Don't listen, does he?
Forbidden fruit, isn't it?
Straight down there after school.
He walked up the drive and knocked on the door. No answer.
Okay, thanks for acting that out for me.
I'm enjoying this. The crying continued, so he had a look around. He entered the empty farmhouse and discovered the crying came from below his feet. Not knowing how to access the building's cellar from the inside, he went back outside to find the external entrance. As he opened the storm doors, light illuminated the room and he made a shocking discovery.
I'm just going to say, if you want to have a cover story for a burglary, this isn't the worst one.
Well, I mean, it's not just a burglary. The body of a young girl, long dead, lay on the floor, a doll held in her arms.
Ooh. Well. Yeah.
Bet you wish you hadn't jumped in then and that was all kind of came through as one sentence.
Not really, I'm not too bothered. Mind you, how do we know he didn't kill her?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're saying burglary, and I'm like, keep your powder dry, mate. We've got a child killer here. So it's not known why the girl was in the cellar in the first place, whether it was by accident or as some sort of form of crime / punishment. Regardless, it's believed that when she died, her spirit decided to inhabit the doll.
That's natural, isn't it?
A horrible story, and no doubt a story you may not believe. However, there is a link in some aspects of the doll's origin and the woman who had donated it to the museum. When the strange events surrounding the doll had started to take place at the museum, the curator decided to visit the doll's previous owner. It was here that she learnt the truth. The owner had not donated the doll for fear of her daughter breaking it. If that was the sole reason, then she would have just placed the doll in a box and out of reach. All right, Columbo. No, the real reason was that when the doll was in her house, a woman could hear some crying, yada, yada.
Still put it in the box and shove it in the bin.
Yeah, just chuck it away.
Yeah.
So when it happened more frequently, she decided to get rid of it. So there you go, Neil. That's pretty much it, to be honest.
I mean,
it's no Robert.
It's not Robert the doll. I mean, I'm just wondering, could you make other uses of this? Like maybe use it as an alarm clock or something?
Yeah, alarm clock.
You could I tell you what, you can do all your crying and stuff, but maybe sort of like 6 o'clock in the morning when I've got to get up. How about that?
Yeah, or use it as some kind of security system.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've said,
scare off, burglars.
As we've said,
well, it sounds like it enticed them in, if anything.
If we want to continue with continuous growth, we need to start utilising the spirit world. We've said that many a time on this podcast.
Yeah, well, it's just a free source of energy.
Free source of energy.
Can't turn your nose up at that.
I'll tell you what. There's certainly no legislation including them in the workers' rights. So, everyone's like ploughing all this money into AI when we've got a perfectly
source of perpetual motion through the paranormal,
serviceable source of labour in the paranormal. So good for the environment. Ghosts don't use electricity, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, well, you're worried about the cost of fuel. How about if your wheels were kept turning by the screams of the damned?
Exactly. No problem there, is there? So, Neil, what you thinking about this doll? It's pretty thin.
It's one of the less impressive ones we've done. Saying something. I don't know. There's a bit there, I guess, isn't there? There's there's a real. It's in a museum, which is good. It's interesting to me that
the doll, and there's I think there's something about, because the dolls are meant to look like children, but they're all like it's got all mashed up face. Then I think that's just kind of horrible to look at. So then people attribute.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Maybe it's It's
like the uncanny valley shit, isn't it? Again, basically.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think there's also something sort of. And you get those slightly older ones as well. They're possibly a bit more lifelike, I guess. I don't know. So that makes it a bit more uncanny. Yeah, there's not. I mean.
And also, if they're old, then you know that at some point it's been played by a child, and that child
died of polio.
Probably, well, not necessarily polio, just old age.
Yeah.
So it's been played by someone who's dead now. So that's it gives
higher percentage chance of some haunting.
Yeah, and also kind of then you've got to think about your own mortality. When you do that, then you start thinking, is the doll what's going to kill me? Is it going to be the doll? Probably.
Will I end up inhabiting the doll?
Start spiraling. Next thing you know, you're living under the bridge with Anthony Kiedis and joining a pop rock funk band.
That could be worse.
Could be worse. That's why I keep buying haunted dolls off of eBay.
Yeah. One of the next Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I kind of come to what's in it for the haunted doll. I guess who can possibly understand the mores of the doll. Yeah.
I don't. You see, you're coming at this from your typical neoconservative angle. What's in it for the doll? The doll's just. I mean, if it's a distressed spirit, I'm not sure there's anything in it for it. It's just that it's, in a sort of a perpetual state of distress.
Fair enough.
What's in it for the butterfly, Neil?
Lovely nectar and
procreation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the dolls. Maybe that's it. Maybe the doll's trying to get some attention because it wants to procreate. Wonder what happened if you put it and Robert in the same cage.
Well, there's only one way to find out. I think you should email the museum shortly and find out if they're up for a transfer.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we'll offer to buy both of them. We'll start a GoFundMe and we'll get them in London Zoo.
Yeah.
See which breeds first, them or the pandas. What do you reckon?
My money's on the dolls, probably. Yeah.
I reckon it's quite.
And if some of that GoFundMe money happens to go missing, then we're not accountants. And
if some of that charity money,
I can't count for every penny.
If some of that charity money ends up, say, £60,000 or so on a 12-foot high portrait of me in cricket gear, like it did with Donald Trump, then that's actually, they think I'd consider that an investment for the charity because it'll bring in more money when they see how godlike I am or something. I don't know.
Small thinkers, Chris. They've never got the vision.
Got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
So, Neil, should we go through our scoring system?
I think we all, yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Spookiness first, isn't it?
It is spookiness. Well remembered. Go on then.
Shall I go on? Okay.
Tell me it.
It's not that spooky, really. I don't know. Haunted Dolls is only so. It would. I'll give it a bit because it could be. I mean, on a phrase, it's kind of like it's below La Pascalate or Robert for me. It's sort of moving stuff around. It did terrify that one woman who worked at the museum,
possibly,
for some reason. But it's just kind of like. I mean, all it seems to have done is to have moved a few like bits and pieces around on the night that it stayed there, and they haven't done anything in 10 years. So. Yeah, the kind of like the child killing and all the other bits and pieces, though, I guess.
It's just made up, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's probably just made up after the fact anyway, isn't it? But,
sorry, I mean, I'm open-minded.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it, it's not that, I don't know, Haunted Dolls aren't that spooky to me intrinsically, I don't think. I'll give it a 4, though. You got all those other elements in, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's more spooky than that. And it's not necessarily the story, per se, or me... But I wouldn't. It's quite horrible looking, and it is quite spooky looking. I wouldn't want to sleep in the same room with it, kind of looking at me. You wouldn't wake up in the night and see it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's got that.
Yeah, there is that actually. It's one of because most of these haunted dolls, they don't look particularly terrifying. And again, we've complained about the movie versions making them look more. Yeah, this one actually does look creepy.
Are you going to change your score?
No.
Okay, still 4 for now. So I think it's quite creepy looking. I wouldn't really want it. I wouldn't really want it in my house, to be honest.
Want it in your house, but I wouldn't want like a rat-infested tire in my house either. It would scare me.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want a rat-infested tire in my house because rats have disease rather than me being scared of rats. Whereas this just kind of would set me on edge in a kind of ethereal way, sort of like, oh, why does it set me on edge? Well, it kind of does.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I think it is quite a spooky thing, and if it has got kind of glass eyes, they kind of seem to follow you around the room. You can logic it out and go, yeah, that's just glass eyes, and that's what they do. But it's still, I don't know. Like I feel like you'd have that thing where you feel like something's watching you. So I think it's a 7 for me, Neil.
Days.
So Neil, believability. I think so. Again, so it's real. So it's actually a physical thing that's there. So that always ups the believability for us.
Yeah.
The story of like finding it from the grandmothers and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. The crying stuff. So I believe that the woman could think that she heard crying and that kind of thing, but she had recently had a kid and was probably pretty fucking sleep deprived. And I think it could be slightly almost like sleep paralysis or kind of when you wake up, but because she's been hearing crying all the time, so she kind of work. So I believe that she believes that. That's not. I don't think that's made up. Do I think the doll's actually haunted? No, but all of the others, bits and bobs, are fine. So I'm giving it a 7 for believability now.
Okay, you're a bit higher than me then I think, because so I think because do I believe it's a haunted doll, or how believable are the claims of it being a haunted doll? Otherwise, it's not really anything there.
Or the belief of the claims is kind of where I
was. So I'm kind of not sure who this. Well, there seem to be 3 different origin stories, so I don't quite know how I can trust the kind of like.
It's just 2, no.
Well, there was the murdered child.
That's one.
There was the.
There's just the woman who brought it in.
Oh, okay. Because I thought there was one where it was carried down from a grandmother to the mother to the child, and then another one where they found it
in the grandmother's house.
They found it at the grandmother's house. Okay, yeah. So, fair enough. And the kid wanted to play with it, whatever, or she decided to hand it down. Okay, so 2. So I'm not actually sure which one I'm supposed to be believing there. The museum staff kind of okay. So the museum staff, they seem to have. They're sort of embellishing it, but at the same time, they're kind of retreating away from it, saying, "Well, we don't believe in any of it, but you never know." Yeah. And they're kind of, and they're kind of obviously. So it's kind of a bit down the middle for me. So there's a few bits and pieces, but so I'll give it a 5. I'll go down the middle.
5. Okay. So Reach, Neil.
Hadn't heard of it. There's no surprise. Never heard any of these things. I don't know. We didn't get into whether it had been in, like, they've made films out of it, or been on Supernatural or any of that jazz.
So let me have a quick
squiz.
So there is a film from 2018, Mandy, the Haunted Doll.
Oh, it's been on Montel in the 90s, so obviously that probably upped its profile. And, haunted dolls are all the rage these days. It's probably got reasonable reach in a big market in America. And Montel Williams probably would have gone out a bit further. I think it was syndicated around various different countries.
This will help you, but the audience score from Rotten Tomatoes for the film was 5%. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I assume that's out of 5. Although that wouldn't be a percent.
That's not how I expect my list.
So 5%. So not a hasn't won the audience over. Let's put it that way.
No, and you pretty much know you're going to be watching something. Ironically, there I would have thought. I don't. I lost my train there, but it's probably not huge reach here. It's not been around for ages. I mean, but it did go on to Williams. So again, it's going to be another 5 for me, I think.
5.
Yeah.
So it's known within the haunted doll world as one of the most haunted dolls, but I'm not sure how broad that church is. It has had a film which I believe was warmly received by the public.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be lots of stuff about it. I mean, the museum doesn't advertise it as kind of a centerpiece like the one in.
No, they seem to be a lot bigger. They just seem to have lots and lots of artifacts. So it's probably a little bit of fun for them to have something like that.
Yeah, so I don't know how well it's known outside of Canada, really. So, and again, it's not that, they've had it since 91, so it's not ages. So I'm going to give it a 3, I think. So, narrative premise. Haunted doll, it's its own very highly popular subgenre these days.
Sadly.
But not a lot. There's not a lot there, really. It was found in the Grand's basement and it was a bit smashed up and that because it's old. And then someone heard crying and that, although I think that's probably to do with the stresses of having a young child. And it doesn't really do much. It maybe knocked over some pens, maybe, but there's not a lot there. It doesn't seem particularly malicious or anything. So, I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to have to give it a 3 now.
Yeah, it's going to be a low one for me as well, because I think from a narrative perspective, haunted dolls, there's much better versions elsewhere, with much more interesting backstory and things like this. There's not. You've got one backstory or alternative backstory, which is almost certainly embellishment about a dead child, but even then, it's just like bloke was wandering around and he decided to look in the storm drain and there was a dead kid inside. It's like something a kid would make up on a campfire. It's like, oh, nice try, Jimmy, but maybe get your narrative sort of connected to a bit more foreshadowing.
Don't come here again.
Yeah. Creative writing's not for you, is it? Yeah.
You should be a mechanic.
Yeah. Talk about working with your hands. Oh God, there's certain storytellers in Hollywood. They should have told them that, given that advice.
I think fruit picking's more your speed. Fruit picking's more your speed, Mr. Bruckheimer.
Yeah. The world needs more of. You're curious. Maybe that's more your alley. Yeah,
Mr. Bruckheimer.
Getting enough parcels to people within the hour. I mean, that's more your speed. And no disrespect to anyone who does do that job. I imagine that's fucking
not at all.
Good luck to you.
Not at all. I imagine that 99.9% of people who are couriers would be better film writers than Jerry Bruckheimer. So.
I think that's the evidence is all there. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah, no, there's very little here, isn't there? It's thin growl. So yeah, I think a 3 is probably about right.
So that gives us an annoyingly middle total of 40 urban legend points.
That feels a bit high, but fair enough.
Well, the spookiness I thought was quite high, and the believability. I mean, it's a physical thing that actually exists, which always pushes up the score, because some stuff is just someone going, "Oh, I heard that this rat man lives in."
It's just kind of average, isn't it? That's what an average thing looks like. Yeah. And something's a bit below it.
Not everything
above it.
Not everything can be, fireworks, Neil. Sometimes you just got to, once a year, you've got to look at a haunted doll and see how it compares to Robert. And
inevitably not as well. Well, we'll see. We'll try one of the big hitters.
I think Robert got quite a low score, actually. I can't remember.
I'm regretting that.
The
algorithm does what it does.
The algorithm hasn't changed, Neil. We have.
Yeah.
We've become world weary and we're giving higher points out for much less.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Let's have a quick look and see what Robert got in this Battle of the Dolls.
Probably some really tortuous justifications on that one as well.
Robert the Dog got 42, so that's fair enough.
Oh, well, I'm glad. Yeah, well, quite right. She definitely should have come higher than Mandy.
Yeah,
so that's right. But where would Annabelle score though?
Well, we'll find out next. We'll find out 2023 now.
Yeah.
I've got to live up to my my family's legacy of being haunted doll investigators slash tale weavers. So if you have any haunted toys, I'd say speak to your doctor. But if you're sure that it's definitely haunted, then let us know at legend.podcast@gmail.com. But apart from that, that's been this year's haunted doll investigation. Fortunately, they're only once a year.
Over with again, thank God. Yeah.
So that's it for this week. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the tail end of summer if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or the
coming of summer if you're not.
Beginning of spring if you're in the Southern. But that's it. See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.